Tony Stark has continuously upgraded the arc reactor, invented the Iron Man suits, and even made time travel possible. Rocket solved the problems of the High Evolutionary, who possesses knowledge of the entire universe. Doctor Strange's photographic memory allows him to store every book he reads in his mind, and He Who Remains had an entire timeline under his control. Yet, none of these characters rank number one in the list of the smartest characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. So today, we're going to discuss who the smartest character in the MCU is. This video is not just about sheer intelligence, but also about how impactful their intelligence has been or will be in the future. Along the way, this list will also help you determine where your favorite character ranks among the smartest ones. So go ahead and make your top 3 predictions quickly. Without further delay, let's begin. Number 10, Shuri. You might be surprised to hear that Shuri ranks 10th on this list. But don't worry, based on the impact of her intelligence, this position is well-deserved. As the genius of Wakanda, Shuri is extremely smart. Some of her contributions include designing both of T'Challa's suits, the manual suit from Civil War, and all the later nanotech suits. She mastered the storage and re-release of vibranium's kinetic energy. Shuri also saved Everett Ross's life by synthesizing his damaged tissues with vibranium. But perhaps her most impressive feat of intelligence was synthetically recreating the heart-shaped herb. That herb was not just a plant. It was a pathway to Wakanda's necropolis, a spiritual realm. To recreate it synthetically was a monumental task. On top of that, Shuri was the one who erased Hydra's programming from the Winter Soldier's mind. Number 9, Rocket. Yes, the captain of the Guardians of the Galaxy team. Though Quill might not agree, Thor definitely would. Rocket is undoubtedly the smartest member of the Guardians. He has deep knowledge in genetic engineering, bioengineering, and cybernetic enhancement. In fact, whenever the Milano or Benatar ships broke down, Rocket was the one who repaired them. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we saw his mastery over weaponry and detonation when he created a small bomb powerful enough to destroy Ego, the living planet's core. And in Volume 3, we saw Rocket at the peak of his brilliance. When he was just a kid, he outsmarted the High Evolutionary himself. This is no small feat, considering the High Evolutionary exists for the sole purpose of acquiring all knowledge of the universe. Rocket is so intelligent that he can even conduct deep space surveillance on his own. In Endgame, it was Rocket who pinpointed where the Infinity Stones had been used again in the universe. Number 8, Dr. Eric Selvig. The MCU has progressed so much that many people may have even forgotten the name of Dr. Selvig. But we won't let you forget. Dr. Selvig, who we first saw in Thor, is exceptionally brilliant. The issue is, no one ever really noticed his intelligent moments. He had been working on Einstein-Rosen bridges, essentially wormholes, long before anyone even believed such a thing could exist. Later, when the Tesseract was found, he was the one appointed to study it. Don't forget, this man literally studied an infinity gem and documented so much about its functioning and behavior that even Tony Stark was able to understand it through his notes. Furthermore, he created a device capable of bringing an Infinity Stone into a perpetual working state under controlled conditions. Essentially, a machine to operate the Tesseract and keep space portals open. His genius didn't stop there. In Thor, The Dark World, Selvig was the first human in history to study, theorize, and anticipate the alignment of the 9 realms. Not only that, he also created control rods to manage that alignment, ensuring the realms didn't collide but merely touched boundaries. Imagine creating a device that could push one realm after another into corresponding positions with Earth. Selvig is undoubtedly a suspected genius. Number 7, Dr. Bruce Banner. This might be the biggest brain on this list. The brilliance and genius impact of Dr. Banner is immensely impressive. Let's start from the beginning. Banner's greatest achievement, and his curse, was the recreation of the super soldier serum. Yes, the very serum that turned Bruce Banner into the Hulk was actually a version of the super soldier serum. The only issue was that instead of beta rays, he was exposed to an overwhelming amount of gamma radiation, which caused a unique genetic mutation in him. But even recreating that serum is a massive achievement. Moreover, Banner is also an outstanding theoretical physicist and engineer. In the Avengers, it was Banner who suggested that S.H.I.E.L.D. should use spectrometers to locate the Tesseract. When Tony arrives on the helicarrier, he begins talking about how the Tesseract works and reveals that he learned everything from Selvig's notes and theoretical papers written on the Tesseract. At that moment, the only other person who had read all of Dr. Selvig's lifelong research papers and notes and understood the Tesseract's workings was Dr. Banner. Now let's talk about Age of Ultron. When Tony suggested creating the Ultron program by deriving the sentience of the Mind Stone, he said to Banner, "You know I'm not the expert here. You are." This is significant, especially considering that Tony Stark's ego is even bigger than his intelligence. For him to admit he's not the expert in something, that's a huge deal. Dr. Banner was the one who synthesized multiple psyches with the consciousness of an infinity stone to create an artificial mind. This is something no one in the MCU has accomplished so far, and I repeat, no one has. Number 6, Dr. Hank Pym. Hank Pym is the man who pushed the boundaries of dimensional knowledge. He invented a particle that could reduce the interatomic distance between matter without collapsing under its own gravity. This size reduction can be taken to such a level that it allows entry into an entirely different plane of existence, the quantum realm. Not only did Hank Pym create the Pym particles, but he was also the first person to theoretically discover the quantum realm. Remember, the practical discovery of the quantum realm was made by Hank's wife, Janet. But after Janet's disappearance, Hank dedicated his life to studying it, analyzing its energy patterns, time variability, and distortion behaviors. Believe it or not, Hank Pym is one of the closest MCU characters to inventing a time machine. The only problem was that he never went beyond theoretical ideas. Still, in terms of impact, it's because of Hank Pym that time travel became possible. If Pym particles hadn't been invented, time travel wouldn't have been achievable. Number 5, Doctor Strange. Now it's time for the Sorcerer Supreme. He's the only doctor on this list who can defeat his enemies in multiple dimensions, quite literally. And you'll soon understand why Doctor Strange ranks so high in terms of intelligence as well. At first glance, it may seem like Strange has no engineering degree, no PhD in theoretical or applied physics, and no expertise in cosmology or astrophysics. And you'd be right to think so. But the area of knowledge Strange holds is beyond the limits of science itself. To put it simply, where the knowledge of Dr. Selvig, Dr. Banner, and even Dr. Pym ends, Strange's mastery over the mystic arts and multiversal knowledge only begins. He possesses knowledge and operates on levels that humans can't even comprehend dimensionally. Let's talk about the impact of his intelligence. Strange was able to surpass all the masters of Kamar-Taj in the shortest amount of time. He read every book in Kamar-Taj's library about the mystic arts and secrets of the universe. He went as far as to read the Book of Cagliostro. He even outsmarted Dormammu by going into Dormammu's realm on his own. And here's something huge. The only remaining copy of the Darkhold in the multiverse now exists inside Doctor Strange's mind. But Strange's biggest intellectual impact came during Infinity War. He was the only one who could see far enough into the future, over 14 million possibilities, and chart the one path that could ultimately restore the universe to its original state. Now, it's also possible that in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, we may discover that his grand vision went beyond just defeating Thanos. Many fan theories suggest that Strange's plan also involved eliminating Tony Stark, because he knew that if Tony survived, he would inevitably become Doctor Doom. That's why Strange might have let Tony die, not just to save the universe, but also to prevent a darker future. Number 4, He Who Remains. He Who Remains, who has many variants, such as King, Immortus, or Ramatut, shares one thing across all versions: the same level of brilliance and a singular vision, absolute dominance over the multiverse and time. How brilliant was He Who Remains? We get that answer from the Loki series. He explains how all his variants met in the future and eventually clashed, starting a multiversal war. He was the one who killed off all the other variants and stationed himself at the end of time. But his brilliance didn't stop there. He created the sacred timeline with his own hands, a timeline that flowed exactly how he wanted. And to manage that, he established the Time Variance Authority, TVA, an organization designed to execute his vision and commands. Still, it doesn't end there. He was so intelligent that he didn't blindly trust even his own work. So, he created the Time Loom, a machine capable of weaving infinite time streams into a single sacred timeline. Just think about that. Designing a multiversal fail-safe mechanism is an incredibly brilliant and visionary act. And here's something interesting. In terms of impact, He Who Remains might actually rank at the very top of this entire list. And that, too, undisputed. If the multiverse saga had continued with its original plan, the King Dynasty, then, as I said at the start of the video, this list was created keeping the future in mind. So obviously, King's impact would have been immense. But since Marvel changed its plan, much of King's impact was rewritten in Loki Season 2 and, in a way, replaced. Still, the credit should go entirely to He Who Remains, because up until Loki Season 2, he was the one who had shaped the multiverse saga. Number 3. Tony Stark. Now it's time for our first heavyweight champion, Tony Stark. I've praised Tony's intelligence in several videos, especially about how he created the Iron Man suit, which remains iconic for fans. But when we talk about his impact, while others on this list pushed limits on planetary or dimensional levels, Tony's impact was on a universal scale. If trillions of lives exist in the MCU today, it is only because of Tony Stark. And as for intelligence, Tony built a miniature fusion reactor from a pile of scrap. Let's be clear, fusion is even more complex than fission. He built the first Mark I armor. Within just his first 2 movies, he outsmarted his own genius father, Howard Stark. He surpassed Selvig. He created an AI like JRVS, capable of designing and managing the Iron Man suits. He found the correct pattern to synthesize the Mind Stone's consciousness. He then created Friday, an AI so advanced it could instantly run millions and billions of simulations and calculations to test theoretical time machine models. And among all MCU characters, Tony is one of the few who's not even afraid of the Hulk. But setting all that aside, Tony's most brilliant and impactful feat is the invention of the time machine. Let's start with some insane information. Dr. Hank Pym had sworn never to let his Pym particles fall into the hands of any Stark. So technically, Tony never had full access to the quantum realm's workings. Yet, after listening to Scott Lang for just a few minutes, he not only understood the behavior of the quantum realm and time flow, but even pointed out Scott's mistake. Just imagine how awesome that is. Despite limited information about the quantum realm, just days later, Tony created a complete and functional time machine model, which he presented to Cap. That means, during the short time we saw Tony in Endgame, he mapped out the quantum realm without fully knowing how it worked. And in a place where time never flows consistently, he figured out precise temporal coordinates. That level of intellect is simply unimaginable. And this gives us a clue about just how smart Doctor Doom might be. Since this list also considers the future, Doctor Doom would also be at this rank for now. As his movie comes out and his story unfolds, his position might rise even higher in terms of impact. Number 2, Reed Richards. Dr. Reed Richards is the man who studied and understood the multiverse even when others were still exploring planetary or universal levels. Confused? Let me explain. Whether we talk about Earth 838's Reed or Pedro Pascal's upcoming Reed in Fantastic Four, both versions have been actively studying the multiverse. In Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, when Strange arrives in Earth 838, Reed is introduced as the expert who could explain the transuniversal journey and its multiversal consequences. Now imagine being called brilliant in front of someone like Charles Xavier, an Omega-level telepath. That's a huge deal. Reed's dialogue implies that he's been studying multiversal incursions for years. And this isn't just a guess. If you catch the subtle details, it's clear. When Strange arrives on Earth 838, It's revealed that universes are assigned numbers and designations, meaning the science of that Earth had already evolved to the point of sector-based multiverse mapping. The ability to explain incursions and their effects proves just how brilliant Reed Richards is. And if we look at Pedro Pascal's version, he began multiverse research in the 1960s. That means Reed Richards in the MCU had multiversal knowledge even before Tony Stark was born. As for Reed's impact, we'll definitely see it unfold in the Fantastic Four movie in the far future, because he's the one who will ultimately restore the entire Marvel multiverse. Number 1. Loki. Hands down, there could be only one character at the top of this list, Loki. His intelligence and knowledge are now almost unmatched in the entire MCU. Especially after becoming the custodian of the multiverse, Loki is virtually omniscient. But what's even more impressive is the impact of Loki's intelligence. The simplest way to explain it is, every character on this list exists only because Loki does. Talking about his intellect, Loki was the first to realize that Ouroboros, OB, and Victor Timely's theories were incomplete. He was the only one who understood the effects of chronal radiation. To fix everything, Loki spent thousands of years mastering multiversal science. Eventually, he prevented the complete erasure of the multiverse, holding it all together. Loki's impact is beyond words. Now, if you're wondering, wasn't this the same Loki from 2012? And asking, how can characters who existed before he became the multiverse's custodian owe their existence to him? The answer is, yes, absolutely. You see, Loki now exists outside of time. For him, the multiversal time stream isn't divided into past, present, or future. Time appears to him as one unified constant. He can observe all three aspects of time simultaneously. So from Loki's frame of reference, he's always been the one holding the multiverse together. With an impact this massive, Loki absolutely deserves to be at the top of this list. So, these were the top 10 smartest characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What do you think? Did anyone in 2012 imagine that the villain who was beaten by the Avengers would one day be called the smartest character in the MCU? But this list isn't over yet. Many more brilliant minds are coming. Dr. Doom is arriving. Earth 828's Reed Richards will be revealed. We'll meet Dr. Hank McCoy. And don't forget the name, Blue Marvel. Now you tell me, which rank was your favorite character on this list? And did your top 3 predictions come true? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you liked the video, do give a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you, guys.